You think of a seed in nature falling to the ground from a flower, you think of it just laying there, but really it's being patted down because there's precipitation, right? Rain, snow, ice, you know, freezing rain, driving rain, all sorts of different things that happen. Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and I'm planting some spinach and kale right now, all in one bed. And I'm going to explain why that makes sense and why it's a good combination. And not because there's any sort of, you know, magical companion planting type synergy, but just the fact that the two things, the schedule, I guess you think of it that way, you know, what's going to happen as those plants grow, they tend to work together, and I'll explain why. Now, I'll also explain that, you know, it's the last week of March. It's a bit early for doing this, but the soil in this bed's workable because I've had a plastic dome over it, so I've warmed it up ahead of schedule. So I can get things growing and get things happening under that microclimate. It's basically like a portable greenhouse, right? I'll pop that on when we're over so you can see what I'm talking about. One right there, you can see it off camera, and one over there. Right, that one there has got lettuce and spinach, and this one here has got, I can't remember what I planted here, dandelions and spinach, I think, a kind of culinary dandelion. Anyway, what's going on here is kale and spinach. Now, let me explain the idea. So I'm going to have a row going down here, kale, a row down the middle, spinach, a row down here, kale. Now, why is that the case? Well, the idea is that the spinach grows very quickly, and it's basically done by July. The kale continues to grow all summer long and into the fall. I'm usually harvesting the last of my kale in November here, sometimes even December, depending on how the year's going. By the time the kale gets big, the foliage, the leaves, is this wide, so it's going to be into the center, right? By the time this kale is full size, the leaves are going to be into the center. They'll practically be touching each other, right? But in the early part of the season, they're going to be smallish, and the spinach is going to grow very quickly. So I can have spinach down the middle in the earlier part of the season, and July, August, when the kale are getting big, I don't want anything down the middle, right? So I can grow that early, enjoy it, and then, you know, have plenty of room for the kale. As I harvest away all of the spinach and it's done, the kale just take over the space. All right, so let's get planting here. It's not too hard. I'm just going to make a little furrow. Not much of one either. The slightest little thing. It's more of a line just so I know where to drop my seeds. Right? I'm really not going for depth here because kale and spinach, you really don't need to plant them that deep. You don't want them that deep. You want them, especially early in the season like this, you want them being able to get whatever heat there is, right? And that's going to be available in the upper portion of the soil. All right, now I got this kind of spinach here. Seaside spinach is the one I'm using, and blue curled Scotch kale. Also got some of my own saved kale seeds. This is kind of like I guess you'd call it Siberian kale. It's a wild kale. It's got a bit of a mustardy flavor. I really like it. This one here, this blue curled Scotch. I've had Scotch curly kale before, but I don't know that I've tried this variety, so I'm trying something new this year. But this is like a wild kale, I guess you'd call this. Right, it grows more, doesn't look like a kale you could buy in a grocery store, let's put it that way, but I love it. And it grows really vigorously for whatever reason. So let's start with the Scotch curly kale. All right, so one thing you got to do when you're, I mean, there's different mentalities on this. I'm planting these about, one every centimeter or so. Yes, I'm seeding a little bit heavy, okay, but I'm going to thin this. And the kale that start growing in this row, some of them can be plucked out and moved, right? Once they're achieving full size, you want to have each plant at least 12 inches apart, 30 centimeters apart, right? Maybe even further apart, like 16 inches or so. Anyway, just do a little section here. I think that's what you can see on camera. Get rid of these seeds just while I'm... Of course, this is impossible to do one-handed, especially with wind. Come on, here we go. Saved. Okay, now, you don't have to do this. I got some really nice sort of composted soil, right? I was planting stuff a week ago. I couldn't use this because it wasn't thawed out yet. But anyway, this is beautiful screen composted stuff. Just my own stuff. But I like to put again, you don't have to do this, but I like to put a line of that down a row I've sown. It's usually a different color, so it's easy to tell where I've planted. Also, I have, good faith in it. It's almost like a good luck ritual. Okay, but patting down. Okay, a recent video I was planting and I was patting stuff down, and people were saying, "What are you doing? Why are you compacting the soil like that?" It's important to do this. You do this, then you water it, right? Because you're putting the seed in contact with the soil. You think about, I take all my cues from nature. You think about in the natural world, a seed falls to the ground usually, at some point in August, September, October, November, even over the course of the winter. Something flowers and it makes its flowers and the seeds are in the flowers, and the wind and the rain, the snow and all that stuff knock those seeds to the ground. Those seeds touch on the ground. And then over the course of the winter and the spring, rain pushes those things, rain compacts the ground and pushes the seeds in. All the weight of the snow pushes everything in, right? So most seeds in nature get something like this done to them when they're planted. Of course, they're not planted, just fall to the ground. But most seeds, various natural forces push them into the soil and get them in good contact. And what do you know? Seeds in your vegetable garden need the exact same thing. So it's worth doing. All right, so let me just do the rest of these. Another good reason to pat your seeds down when you're planting them is so that they don't move around when you water them. Right? You got to water gently, and you got to water so that you don't create a deluge, a river, sort of thing, a flood in your soil. But yeah, by patting them down, the seeds will stay where you put them, so they'll stay in the row. Now, if you've got some sort of just, total total anarchy hippie garden, just throw the seeds everywhere and let everything happen. That's a whole nother thing. But if you like things to be in a relatively neat row as I do, then that's the best way to maintain that. And when you're watering, you don't water too much. You just water enough to make the soil shiny, and then stop, right? Stop until the shine sort of goes away, and give it another go. And I mean, this soil is already, quite moist to start with. Okay, so not a lot of water needed here. That's enough. All right, so I've pretty much done everything I need to do here aside from putting the plastic dome back on. All I need now is for the sun to come out, because today there's no sun. But anyway, I hope that answered questions. I've been getting a few about why are you patting it down so much? Why are you making that so important? Why are you so dedicated to that approach? It's because that's what happens, right? That's, you think of a seed in nature falling to the ground from a flower. You think of it just laying there, but really it's being patted down because there's precipitation, right? Rain, snow, ice, freezing rain, driving rain, all sort of different things that happen over the course. Remember, most plants in nature, they sow their seeds in the fall, and then those seeds germinate the following spring. They've got an entire season of weather to be pushed and packed and tamped into the soil by, the various kinds of precipitation that fall out of the sky. So you're just copying that approach, right? So it is the natural way of things, even though it looks very, artificial or whatever, forced, but you're just copying the natural way things happen. So I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.